Hello there. I'm Helaina Regal. I obviously just woke up like this. And today I am hijacking Fiberchats, and I'm going to be interviewing Irina for her 100th episode. I have been told nothing is off limits, so get ready. Here we go. Okay, here we go.
Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. So today we're doing something completely different, and my former guest and person I interviewed, journalist and book author Helaina, she's gonna be the one interviewing me because so many questions came out about me. So since I just published my 100th episode, here we
Yay!
go, tables turned.
Tables turn. All right, so you and I started knitting around the same time. It's been about 4 years for us. And, I have some sources as a journalist that I may have talked to before this interview, have a little information. So sources have told me, multiple sources across the world have told me that when you asked your mom to teach you to knit, she actually refused. And I found that really interesting. Why was that?
Well, my mother grew up basically like the family was poor, and my grandmother was superbly crafty, and she used to be a seamstress and a knitter and crocheter as a side business, as a side income, basically. So for my mom growing up, knitting and all the handcrafts, it was sort of like representation of poverty. And as soon as she got out of it, as soon as she got education and got a job, like she wanted nothing to do with handmade stuff. She thought like you should just buy stuff in store. And so for her, like she never encouraged me to do anything crafty. But then I spent summers with my grandma, and she thought it was fun to teach me stuff. So at some point, I think I was
Yeah.
7 or 8, she taught me how to knit. It was like end of the summer, so she showed me some knit and purl stitches. I think she cast on for me. And then I came home and I was like knitting it, and my mom was like, "Oh, can't you just go and play?" And that was the end of my knitting career until very recently.
Grandmas are the best. There's no one like grandmas for anyone, right? Like grandmas are just the best. So fast forward, right? There was a long period of time where you weren't knitting at all, and then you picked it right back up. And your first project was the booties for your friends. And then when I may or may not have spoke to your son at length, he said that you were like, I'm going to start with Shetland lace and pick the hardest thing and buy 8 books about Shetland lace and look at all these patterns, and there are errors in these patterns and what's going on. And you went in, like you went for it. And I'm wondering, like, what is it that makes a person compelled as a new knitter to do Shetland lace?
Well, it was like accidental meeting basically. So I was new to the Instagram, and I was looking at all the other crafters, and I met Monique Boonstra. So Monique Boonstra is like, I call her Shetland lace goddess. So she's a designer of Shetland lace. She's very passionate and very knowledgeable about it as well. And so I saw pictures of hers, and I was like, what is it? It's so beautiful. And she said, well, it's Shetland lace. So I never heard of it before. So I did what I usually do. I went to the library. And so I came to the library and I asked them, what books do you have on Shetland lace? And they showed me this book. That was the only book in the library. And I looked at that picture on the cover and I thought, oh, this is so pretty. I want to need that. And so I jumped into that shawl.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
and fast forward a little bit, I didn't realize it was one of the most difficult shows in the book.
Yeah.
So apparently, there is a rating for those shows. So they have in complexity level 1C, 2C, 3C. That was the 3C. So I went for the like one of the most difficult designs. But the book was really well written, and I sort of got it. So the first one I made, so it was this hard show. I finished it, but I sort of didn't realize that you should swatch.
Oh, What's that? I don't
Or
know.
that the thickness of the yarn makes a lot of
Mhm.
difference. So I basically took like some cashmere that I found in some store, and it
Just
looked
some cashmere
it
that
looked
was like
thin to me.
somewhere. Yeah.
It looked like really thin to me at that time. So I was like, that should work, right? I mean, that shawl was enormous. It was like so long. So when I put it in the water and I tried to block it, it covered like my entire dining room table plus. So I
Yeah.
was panicking and I wrote in the Fine Shetland Lace group. I was like, I don't know, like I ruined it. I don't know what to do. So they sort of walked me through the proper blocking, and they said like if you block it wide but you pin the heart will stay in shape, but it's not gonna be outrageously long. So I saved the shawl.
Amazing. I mean, and that was online, right? Like
Yeah,
every I can't even imagine learning to knit without the online community that we have
it
now,
makes
without
sense. It makes
the not
huge sense.
yeah, like the resources on YouTube, the fellow knitters we find. I mean, that's how we found each other, was on Facebook, Instagram. I can't even imagine. And I think it's one of the strongest communities out there, especially in the last couple of years. And it's so wonderful because we all just love helping each other. It's a really beautiful thing. Even if we can't do it in person right now, we're still helping each other. And the women gathered around you on your first shawl, and they're like, here's how to pin it. So I'm assuming that wasn't the shawl that you wrapped all three of your children in, that you showed me a picture of. Is that a different that I think that was a lesson in check your gauge, right? Like
The hard way.
so I want to pivot a little bit and talk about Fiberchats, right? So what I really, really love, and I think what your audience loves, and why this has taken off so much, is because you have a very beautiful, authentic desire to showcase brand new, little known designers and the big celebrity designers. And, I'm curious about where the thought came from, like where that thought was born when you first had that light bulb moment where you're like, I'm going to learn YouTube, I'm going to learn video editing, I'm going to learn all this stuff, I'm going to interview people, I'm going to reach out to them, all the stuff. Like, what was do you remember when you very first had the idea?
Yeah, so not none of it was planned. So the first time I was thinking, I was on Instagram and I was thinking, okay, I have all those followers. I don't know anybody, and they probably know nothing about me or anybody I follow. So, what if I asked some of my friends to go live with me on Instagram, and I could just ask them some questions about themselves. So maybe like this way I can get to know more about them,
Yeah.
and people gonna look at my life and meet some new people. So the first person I asked was Alison Randall, and we became friends. She's a designer from Shetland. She does Fair Isle, and we became friends over COVID, basically.
Mhm.
And I asked her, and Alison panicked. She was
Really?
she was like, I don't know about that. I never done that, and I would need
Yeah.
some questions before time, and I need to think about it. And I was like, yeah, let's just think about it. And then as soon as we stopped talking, basically, Josh Stein texted me about something completely unrelated, and I said, Josh, I have this idea. Like, what do you think if I just interviewed some of my friends over live? And he's like, yeah, let me just finish cake and then we can go.
Obviously, we all know who Josh Stein is, but just in case we don't know who Josh Stein and his cake is, who is that?
So he's an indie dyer from Portland, Oregon, and we've been friends for a while.
Okay.
And like we've met on Instagram. So he was like, yeah, let's do it. And the thing is, like, I didn't even know how to start live on Instagram. So it's like, if you watch the first episode, it's like a complete disaster, and it was so unprepared. But then as soon and it was like, I think under 20 minutes, it was like really short. But as soon as we were done, Allison texted me and she said, I saw how you do it. Let's just do it tomorrow. And that's how the second episode
Okay.
happened. And so for her interview, I was really trying to prepare, and I was writing questions down, and I was thinking how I'm gonna, like, what I'm gonna ask, how I'm gonna ask. And then I caught myself like in the middle of the interview thinking that I'm so concentrated on though, like reading those questions, that I'm missing some of the things that she's saying. And so for the third episode, I decided to just jump right in, and I said, you know what, like I'm gonna learn everything I can learn about this person. I'm gonna see their social media. I'm gonna see if there are any other interviews or articles about them or anything I can find, but I'm not gonna write it down any questions. I'm not gonna plan anything. I'm just gonna let the conversation happen. And so the first like 11 episodes happen on Instagram. And then my son Daniel came home, and he works for YouTube for Google. And he came home and he was like, listen, it's all very cute what you're doing here, but it's on the wrong platform because nobody can find you here. So you should you should start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And so I blame it on him. He was the one.
Blame, thank, verify mine. So, and I heard you dove right into that too, and you learned video editing and tech editing. And you know, what's interesting is what I'm hearing as you talk is that's kind of what a good journalist does, is like you do your research and you go in with questions, but you have the conversation. And if the conversation starts to go somewhere else, you leave yourself open to those other questions, right? And so you have that instinct in you, which is so wonderful. And it's probably something you didn't know was in you until you started doing this. Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, you know, I don't want to, this is about you, so I don't want to talk about myself too much. But for me, like, if you would have told me a few years ago that I'd be designing shawls, I would be like, okay, also, and I own a Fortune 500 company. Like, I didn't know that, you know, but you don't know what's in you till it's there and you start to do it. And you know, I think like when we did our interview, I started designing by accident. Like I just made up the pattern. I wrote it down. Luckily, I said, all right, this is a fundraiser for animal rescue. You know, at the beginning of the pandemic, you know, the shelters were hurting even more. And now it's almost 2 years later, it's 38 tested patterns later. I mean, and I'm just going with it. And it's like with you, like you've got like what, 25,000, like 100, I don't even know. Like, let's just say 8 billion. Let's just say 8 billion subscribers now. Like we don't need to fact check that. And there's clearly this needed to happen and people love it and people want it. And I'm sort of wondering, just for fun, like if you remember your biggest awkward moment where someone might have said something or did something that like completely threw you, or didn't say something, or was like hard to interview. Like, what was your kind of first like moment as you were doing this?
So it was interview with Monique Dreyf. So I was in the middle of the interview and suddenly the landscapers came and started blowing the leaves right outside of the window.
Oh my God.
It was so hard for me to concentrate on like, not what Monique was saying, but like what I'm gonna ask next. That at some point I was just like, okay, like I don't know what to ask you. I want to ask you something, like how can I help your business somehow? And then of course, I'm editing it, so I'm like, okay, I'll just edit it out, right? My brain that moment. And somehow it stayed in the interview.
Somehow, we don't know. It's just magic.
And then I'm listening to the interview when it went live, and all my friends are listening with me. And suddenly I'm realizing that I never edited it out. And I was
I actually had a similar really funny thing happen where when I first started doing this, there's something called the Pivot Masters podcast, and she interviews people who kind of career pivot and start doing something new. And I was actually a little hesitant when she first approached me because I was like, well, I'm just doing the designing for now, you know, but I'm still a writer and an author and a journalist. And I finally reconciled that I can be both and consider myself that. So she coughed during the interview and I said, are you kidding me with that cough right now? And she left it and she left it in. And it's like, that's the realness, right? And I think that that's kind of where this came from for you is, oh my gosh, I have 20,000 followers. And I think we all had that moment, you know, of course, no one under the age of 21 now, but we all had that moment on Facebook where we said, I don't have 2,000 friends. I don't have 20,000 friends. What does that mean? You know? And so to actually get to know people, I mean, I love it. I encourage people like message me, like say hi, like it's amazing because right now that is community, and the interviews you do and the way that we interact is all part of this now largely digitized, technological community that we have. And so who was the person you were most nervous about interviewing?
I think it was Suzanne Bryan, just because she's a certified handmaster knitter from Knitting Guild Association. She also has a YouTube channel with over 100,000 subscribers.
Mhm.
And so I was interviewing her, but I felt like I was such a rookie in everything, in YouTube and in knitting. And here I'm like interviewing this guru of knitting who like has every tutorial on every technique on the world. But it's actually turned out to be really interesting because I happened to be the first person to interview her ever.
Wow, really?
And I felt, I mean, that was like a lot of pressure, but I also felt like I was so happy that she agreed to do that. And I was happy that it turned into like really conversation between like fellow knitters, friends, sort of, less than like a formal interview style, you know?
Totally.
And then after the interview, we talked, and Suzanne was like, well, I'm thinking, how can I help you? Why won't you come to my channel? And we had a live, 1 hour live on her channel. It was like
I
wonderful.
love it. Now, one thing that's really special about you is that you're so unconcerned about getting subscribers, you're now in a place where you're getting a little advertising going on from YouTube, but like your priority is really just about the people in the interviews. And I think that that's unique because we can all get caught up in, everything from how do I monetize this to how many likes to how many subscribers. So tell me a little bit about that, because I think that makes you really special.
Thank you. Well, it was sort of a decision from the start because I didn't want to concentrate on chasing the big names. And don't get me wrong, I would love to have every famous designer on my channel, but I also felt like a lot of young designers, new designers, or people who like starting indie dyeing career, or you know other kinds of fiber artists, there is common thread between all of us because we all have moments of unsureness. We all have moments when we like, well, am I an expert really in this thing? Like, how can I sell myself? And I wanted to show that. I wanted to show that like we all going through difficulties, famous designers and people who just starting.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to, like, I was thinking of how I can give back, sort of, because the community helped me so much. It's
Yeah.
like I got so much out of it. I met the best friends. I've met people who like I talk to on a daily basis. I
Yeah.
was like, how can I help them promote themselves? So I wanted to, by design, basically invite just knitters or people who just sell their crocheting projects, people who just started designing, and like introduce them to my followers and show my followers that they all have unique and interesting story behind them.
It's a wonderful thing. It is. So talking just a bit more about Fiberchats, we're in 2022. It's looking a little similar to 2020, 2021 so far. But what can we expect? Like, is there anything special in the works for Fiberchats this year? Like, do you have anyone especially exciting coming up? Like, what are we looking at for this coming year?
Well, there are few like very exciting for me um, interviews that coming up. So one of them happened today, but it's gonna be posted on March 8th, which is like just happened to be International Women Day. I actually got to interview the author of that book, Elizabeth
So
Lovick.
exciting.
And
So perfect. I love it on
I
Women's Day.
actually told her that, like, for me, it was like interviewing Elvis, like, because, I feel like she completely changed my life.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that was like probably one of the dreams come true. And other than that, it's like what happening with fiber chats, it's very interesting because when I started, it was always people like who I knew, who I met on Instagram, who I met on Facebook. But then starting from probably November, majority of people who came to my channel were people who I got introduced to by my guests. So
There
it's
you
like
go.
it's becoming this like very organic growth of the people that I'm meeting. Like I'm meeting people through introductions. I meet like somebody I would interview and they're like, "Oh my God, you have to interview this person." And I get to meet like so many amazing people. And I also get to learn like about like it's brings like every interview teaches me something new I didn't know about fiber arts. So I
Yeah.
interviewed now like a lot of quilters and tapestry people and crocheters and needlepoint people. It's like there's like such a wide range of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. All right. It sounds like it's going to be another very exciting year for Fiber Chats. So, and I bet you're just going to keep growing and keep growing your audience. And I think it's wonderful because, I think that if it were anyone else doing anything else, I mean, there are plenty of people who start podcasts and channels and they just are like DOA. Like it's so hard to get subscribers, it's so hard to get followers. I actually tried my hand at a podcast. Like if you look me up on YouTube, there's like 4 episodes that my husband helped me edit of a podcast just interviewing, like, because my thing has always been like social good and social change and nonprofits. And so, I recorded it. Like, I don't know, I think like 5 people have ever listened to it. And I was like, okay, I tried. I'm happy with it. It's there. But you did this and it took off. And I think that it just goes to show that like what you're putting out there, people really want,
Well, it's
like,
very hard to grow subscribers. I don't know why, because it's like on like on Instagram or even Facebook, like people there's a culture of following. Like people know that you just follow somebody. On YouTube, it's not that obvious that you need to subscribe. So people watch your podcast or your interviews, but they don't want us they just don't think about subscribing.
yeah,
And the thing about subscribing, it's not necessarily that it just helps me to monetize or to grow my channel. It's it's like playing with YouTube algorithm, right? The more people subscribe, the more people like your video, the more YouTube starts showing it to other people. So it helps you to grow, to like be exposed to people who like might not find your channel otherwise. And in exchange, so like I always ask people like please subscribe, but in reality by subscribing to me they helping those designers and those indie dyers to get exposed to people who like would never find my channel otherwise.
yeah. And it's very subtle, the subscribe button behind you on the show. And also, oh, what's that on your mannequin? Just randomly asking. That's really pretty. I wonder what that is.
This is an upcoming design by a friend of mine who has been interviewed on my channel. Regal needs.
Who has a ridiculous laugh. um no, so here, let's get into some fun facts that I'm just gonna throw out there. I ask, this is just for the viewers, I'm going to talk to the viewers. I ask Irina to email me, like when she tests for me, I'm like, could you email any questions? And she's like, absolutely not. Like, she, she's like, no, go ahead, say what you're gonna say.
Like I honestly, like I think I'm one of the best and the worst testers at the same time because I'm I'm so new to like the whole knitting and the testing that if I stumble at something, if I think something doesn't make sense, it usually shows designer that there is more people who gonna have issue with
Yep,
the
of
same
course.
exact thing, right? So just by sheer inexperience, I bring good points to the designer as a tester. But then, as much as I love test knitting and I love promoting the designers. I love putting those pictures out and telling all my friends, please follow this designer and look at the shawl that they just posted. I just like writing notes in Ravelry or emailing about it.
Ugh,
It's like,
emailing.
it's
Oh
just
man.
not my forte.
The same exact thing as sending a Facebook or Instagram message, but in an email. It's too much. It's too much.
Like seriously, like if you look at my email box, there's like 15,000 messages.
No, but you're fantastic. I always feel like I hit the lottery when you test for me. And I love the process, and I don't know where I'd be without my testers too. Many of whom have become real friends, and people who you just I've made so many real friends. When you talk to people all day, every day, like through social media, like you get to know them in a way. You're in one long conversation with someone. I've been in one long conversation with people for 2 years, and it's really an amazing thing. And there's so many different ways to communicate. Like you and I talk over Instagram Messenger, Facebook Messenger,
At the
text,
same time.
email, all at the same, yep, all at the same time. And sometimes when this is happening, I heard that you've been known to just kind of chill out with a glass of wine and crack peanuts and eat those as a fun snack at your kitchen table. Tell me, how did you, I feel like that's such a unique, wonderful little thing. Now, obviously, I've been sober 10 years, so I'm not going to try it, but it sounds very interesting. I'm wondering how you came to realize that good old fashioned peanuts and deshelling them and cracking them with a glass of wine was your jam.
Well, so I have a friend, and actually, like, she was the one who probably inspired me to start knitting. So her name is Irina Ginsburg, and she's like probably the most creative knitter I personally know, because she just takes any yarn and like variety of bright, beautiful colors, and she creates just these free-flowing garments that she calls unwearable art, because I use the hashtag wearable art for a lot of references. But I just love the fact that she's like nothing stops her. She's creating some like really beautiful, unique pieces. So she's also a very passionate gardener. And early on, like when I just met her, she was telling me that, you know how like when you pot the plant, you're supposed to put like rocks on the bottom? And she said,
I've been a New Yorker my whole life. I don't know what you're talking about, but yes.
like rocks are very heavy, so the pot becomes very heavy. But if you put peanut shells in it, then they are biodegradable and they make isolation, so they let the water drip basically. So every time we would come to her, she would have a jar of peanuts and a separate jar for shells, and we would all sit around and like shell those peanuts, and she would use them for her pots in the future. So I thought it was brilliant. So like instead of just buying can of peanuts already shelled for me, I would buy a large pack with peanuts in the shell, and I use those shells for the plants. And I just like, I think I have north of 80 house plants at this point.
Wow, I can't get one plant to live in this apartment. I can't get one plant to live here. I do have a very funny, huge Amazon fail fake tree that's in this apartment that looks, I can't bring myself to get rid of it because it's so hilarious, but like, I can't even get a fake tree, right? Like in this apartment. So speaking of plants, tell me about the yarn in the bathtub photo.
Well, that was inspired by Steven West. So he did that type of photo shoot like years ago, and I saw that picture and I was like, it's so fun, like I should try that. So I got a few garbage bags and I loaded all my yarn in it. And so the difficulty of it, I was doing it with a selfie stick. So I was sitting in the bathtub and the selfie stick was sitting just outside of the bathtub, and I was using the little remote control to click those pictures. The problem is the phone, like I was taking it with my phone, and the phone is like pretty far away. And so I couldn't see if it was a good picture or not. So after every picture, I would have to get out of the tub and go check the picture. And when you're taking picture that's like almost naked, right? Like, for the record, I wasn't naked. So I was sitting in the bathtub and I was having to strategically place larger skeins on my top, and like little
Yeah.
skeins and like prettier skeins on top of that, so to make it look really full. So I used the big acrylic yarn that I used for the toys, like amigurumi toys. So I used that to cover my most of myself, and then all the pretty fingering and more hair on top.
Yeah. I mean, let's get it trending. Everyone get in the bathtub to your comfort level of, you know, nudity, and just get someone, you know, if you live alone, get a friend to just cover you in yarn and take a picture. I think we
I
should.
mean, the good thing about that picture, it made me realize first that how much yarn I have. But second, I was forced to reorganize my yarn. So now it's a little bit like more visible and like.
See that multitudes of great things came from the from
Right.
the bathtub photo. So I did get a few questions from your followers who adore you. One of them is, when are you going to publish that shawl design that you did, Little Missy? That is gorgeous. That is amazing. People are waiting with bated breath for that. What is the holdup?
Well, so I'll tell you. So, I mean, first of all, that shawl made me appreciate all the work that designers and tech editors put into the design of it. Because it's like I was playing with it. I was like, I wasn't writing. I mean, back to the fact that I'm not good at taking notes. I was knitting it. I was having fun. I wasn't taking really notes. So by the time I got to the end of it, and I was like, well, should I publish it? Should I not publish it? And people were like offering me to test knit it, and I was like, oh my god, like it's gonna be so much work. So I decided not to do it yet.
Oh, it's going to be so much work. Not like learning Shetland lace, not like starting a YouTube channel. Oh, that's going to be too much work. The pattern I already designed to get it. Let me tell you, girl, you did most of the work. You really did. And I'm coming for you for that shawl, and we're good, but it's happening. Similarly, someone asked, what is your hesitation about knitting socks?
Well, so thankfully,
look at that! Look at that! Gorgeous!
This is because of the Fiberchats, like exclusively. Because I don't know, there's like certain thing about like they have to be the same size, so your tension has to be equal. After you're done with the first one, you have to do the second one. So there's like a lot of things, and it's like, and I only learned Magic Loop like months ago. So before that, it was all the like the double pins, and it's so, you know, awkward sort of to deal with them. So I was like, you know, just like it's so much work for a sock. Didn't do that. And then I was interviewing Professor Pearl, who is like famous for his sock designs. And then I was interviewing Steven Weber, who like needs everything and anything. And then Steven Weber posted my interview with Professor Pearl on watching it while he was knitting socks, and he started making fun of me that like I'm scared of socks. And so I was thinking like, well, maybe I should try it. So Professor Pearl sent me his pattern.
There you go.
And I knitted it, and like somehow I managed.
And we're going on the honor system that you actually knit that sock. We're going to believe you. That finished sock. We're going to believe you.
This is already the second pair of socks that I'm knitting. That one I gifted to...
Plot twist. This is the second pair of socks. Oh my goodness. There was a first pair.
Right. So this is actually, this particular design is by the crazy sock lady, who I'm hoping to convince one day to come to my channel. And
I'm assuming that's her name and not just how you're describing her as the crazy sock lady.
That's the name of her YouTube channel and her Instagram.
Amazing. Something that I think people would find very interesting is, you know, when people were asking about your cats, and you have 3 cats. You have one cat who refuses to use any of the like 7 litter boxes that you've provided. And for the fun fact is that we are thinking that you might be allergic to cats, even though you have cats.
I actually am allergic, but my youngest son is like, he adored cats ever since he was like a little baby. He always wants to hold them, and like he's the cat person in the family. So, and Daniel, my oldest, he's also allergic to cats. So when Daniel moved out of the house and went to college, we got the first cat. So she was like a 4 weeks old little kitten. We had her for 2 years. We were very happy with her. And then we found a cat on the street, and it was 2 days old.
Oh my God.
So
So
it
you
was basically like it was abandoned by the mother, and it was a matter of survival for that cat. So I took it, and it was like every 2 hours getting up, feeding it through the. She couldn't even suck on the bottle, so I had to use the syringe to push some milk into her. And now she's like this big, voluptuous lady of a cat.
Ooh, she's a big voluptuous lady now. Oh my goodness. What was in that syringe?
And then the third
Amazing.
one, basically, like I was like, I'm not getting a third cat. So somebody asked me to watch it for just a day, and he stayed with us for already 4 years now.
Wow. So someone was like, can you just watch this cat for me? And then never came back. Wow. So, I mean, so you literally rescued this cat, like talking about animal rescue, right? Like you literally found this cat and you nursed it back to health into a voluptuous lady. And, and you're kind of allergic, right? So, I mean, I guess the next logical question is, have you tried to knit little outfits for the cats?
Well, the cats, unlike dogs, like I know Wiley is like really wonderful model. Cats don't like to wear
Yeah.
anything. So
Yeah.
I try with my oldest cat, Shadow. So actually, the fun fact, my kids named all the cats, and they wanted some sensory names. So the first cat was named Shadow, and it's like something you see
Totally.
behind. So the second one, they were like, we should do something with the sound. So like, what's left behind after the sound? Echo. So the second one was Echo. And then when the third cat came, they were like trying to be, it's like, it's either taste or touch, right? So like, it was between tingles and aftertaste.
Oh, aftertaste. Oh my God. I'm gonna guess you went with tingles, but I kind of wish you went with aftertaste. Yeah, no, but I mean, here's the thing, right? Like Wiley is great at modeling stuff for about at the most 30 seconds because there's food involved. Like he doesn't like wearing stuff. I mean, he won't even wear booties in a blizzard. Like we had a standoff where like he was up to his chin in snow and would not walk until I took the boots off. Like we were so I took. So what's come to my attention is this interesting thing where people are saying that you're putting too much out there and they can't keep up with it. I'm wondering what your response is to that.
I mean, that's like one of my favorite complaints because I'd rather drown people in information than not provide enough. But it's also, I never had the expectation of anybody to watch every single interview I put out there. Like my idea was always to like to create almost this like catalog, like library of talent. And so whenever you pop on my channel and you can just scroll and see somebody is going to catch your eye because and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do different fiber artists, not just knitters. Like even though I do mostly knitting, I wanted to have people who quilt, people who crochet, people who do tapestry, like all different kinds. Because to me, it was like we all one fiber arts community, and I wanted a person to come and find something interesting for them. I didn't want it to be just knitters or just designers.
Yeah,
And the
that makes
interesting,
sense.
yeah, and then the interesting thing, like, doesn't matter what kind of fiber artist they interview. First of all, I learned so much from them about their art, but it's also like we have so much in common.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it goes back to that too much of a good thing, right? Where like, and also, you know, when you do something, I think people like me and you, it's like we have an idea, it's done 5 minutes ago, like, and we like hit it hard. You know what I mean? There's no like dabbling, which I actually heard a rumor that when your son was interested in martial arts, he was like just okay. But then you found like the top martial arts instructor like in the world and gave him private tutoring. And he went on to like do all these competitions and do these amazing things. And that's just, you know, it's ambition, right? Like we're ambitious women and we're trying to put stuff out there that's positive for people, and some stuff's not going to be for everyone, right? Like some of your videos, like, you know, might not be for everyone. Some of my designs might not be for everyone. Some of my articles might not be for everyone. You know what I mean? So but the more that we do, the higher the chance that we are going to hopefully make someone's day.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and hopefully, like, it's also gonna introduce more people to Fiberchats, but through Fiberchats to new for them artists.
Yeah. Yes. There's so many things on my to-do list that for the year, like I want to learn to cable. Like I am sure that I could get it, but I just need the discipline to sit down and try to learn to cable. Like, but I'm just
I'm
so
gonna try to learn in Tarsha.
I promise you I'm never going to ever knit the kind of things, you know, like I look at your Instagram and I'm like, is that a spider web or is she knitting a shawl? Like I promise you there's no danger of that happening for me. But like, you know, my Achilles heel is hats. I've done a million. I've had like out of 50 hats, I have like 3 that are wearable hats, like, you know, but you try and you figure out, you know, you figure it out. And you know,
It's all
yeah.
one stitch at the time.
It is. It is. And, you know, the other thing that's really great too is that because of the kind of unfortunate circumstances that we've been looking at in the past 2 years, I think more people than ever are knitting, right? And
That's
so,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. And so you know, people can kind of feel intimidated by it. Like when I first learned to knit, I wrote on my name tag, Helaina who can't knit. And the teacher showed me and I did it. And that was knitting. You know, it's like, you jump in and you try and you get you find that it's your love and that's it, right?
Well, you know what? It's funny because when my youngest son was learning how to play tennis, and he was getting very frustrated that he couldn't beat this person or that person, I told him before it became a sport, it was a game. And that's like an important reminder for the knitters, because before we made it into some ambition and some career or anything, it was about the comfort of yarn in your hands and just making something beautiful.
And you have, and you continue to. What would you say, if you could go back now, right, knowing everything that you know from doing 100 episodes, if you could go back and tell yourself on your first day doing a YouTube interview anything, what would you tell yourself? Like, what did you learn? What did you wish you knew back then?
I think it's like do first, learn later sort of thing, because if I thought about it, if I tried to plan it, if I tried to learn about the equipment you need or the editing or like anything I needed to know for this thing, I would never do it. So it's sort of
It's
like,
intimidating. Yeah. Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of times when I interview people, the same thing comes out. Like if I ask them, like, well, have you considered doing this? Like I was interviewing a guy and I asked him if he ever considered becoming a knitwear designer, and he was like, no, like that's not me, like I'm so busy now. And then a week later he texted me that he's working on his first knitwear design. And I feel like we all sort of inspire and get inspired by each other, and sometimes like the ideas come from talking to somebody. So like you know, it's like it comes up in conversation that it's sort of like when you watch these interviews and when I talk to people, I realize that like we all have different perspectives, and sometimes it's surprising to learn it. And I feel like that's the beauty of it for me, because like I decided like very early on that like if nobody watches this interview, if I only do it to talk to that person across from me, it's already worth it for me, because I'm getting to know all these like 100 beautiful people who make this world a better place.
There you have it. This has been Irinashaar being interviewed, nothing was off limits. And we really went there, guys. This is going to be all over page 6. This is hot goss. But in all seriousness, I adore you. I love you. I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so happy that people are going to get a chance to have this really special window into your life. And those sirens are the cops. They are, they found me. So just in time to end the interview, guys. So someone come bail me out. All right. This has been 100 episodes of Fiberchats, a celebration. I'm Helaina from Chic and Regal Knits. This is Irina from irinashaar, and her shawl is coming out soon. Please write angry letters. Thank you.
And don't forget to subscribe.
And don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.